Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 2 p.m. program of our Aquarium Online Academy, and happy Earth Day! Today is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, so we welcome you. We're happy that we get to talk to you today about whales and conservation. But before we talk about the whales, there's a few things we should mention. One of the things we're promoting today is that you and all of our friends out there, you can draw Earth in a heart, around hearts, with hearts, however you want to draw it. Use your artistic delight, and you can share that on your social media and tag us to help celebrate Earth Day. Let's see how many people we can get to share their artwork of the planet Earth. You can do it with sidewalk chalk on the sidewalk. You can draw with crayons on a paper, colored pencils, whatever art pieces or artwork you have at your disposal. Go ahead, draw some fun Earth art and tag us on your social media if you post it. Now, a couple other things you can do today. Now, we are celebrating Earth Day here at the Aquarium. We've been having some very special guest animals show up today. We'll have another one here at about 2:20-ish. It's going to be one of our mammals to help talk about mammals today. But the other thing we do is we can celebrate by taking action at home. There's a lot of little things you can do. There's a lot of little activities you can do to learn more about how we can help maintain and be the stewards of our planet. So if you go to the Instagram account that's at Teen Climate Council, that is one of the ones that our staff run here, that you can look at some very inspiring ways that you can help participate in Earth Day, or ways that you can help be proactive and help clean our planet or take care of our planet. But there's also activities for all of our viewers of all ages. So check that out. Remember, that's at Teen Climate Council on our Instagram. All right. I have Dana helping control. I have Luke over at the question monitor. So if you want to text us questions about any of the animals, go ahead. Now, the number is 562-286-1838. Go ahead and text this number right here. Now, message rates do apply, so make sure you have permission if you're one of our really young viewers or have an adult help you out. But you can text us questions. Luke's going to help bring them into the studio so I can answer them. The other cool thing you can do, if you're not watching live, is you can email us questions at live@lbaop.org. So, let's talk about my favorite topic, whales. Now, here at the aquarium, I'm sometimes referred to as the resident whale and dolphin because I love going out and talking about whales so much. But what is a whale? What does that term kind of mean? Do you have an image in your head of what a whale might look like? Well, have Dana surprise us with a picture of a whale. And let's see if it kind of matches what we were thinking about. Now, whales are what we collectively call the whole group of cetaceans. This is a cetacean. There really isn't a direct translation of cetacean to whale, but we all just kind of generally call everything that's a cetacean a whale. Well, James, what's a cetacean? I'm glad you asked. Whales, dolphins, toothed whales, and porpoises are the cetaceans. So a toothed whale is something like a dolphin or a sperm whale, or the bigger whales like this. So toothed whales can be pretty small, though vaquita is the smallest of all the whales, and it's only about 4 feet long. The orca is a pretty big toothed whale. The biggest of all the toothed whales is the sperm whale. Well, the other kinds of whales have baleen. So the baleen whales are the ones like we just saw, the humpback whale. Blue whales, humpback whales, fin whales, they filter their food out of the water with a structure that looks kind of like that. This one doesn't look as impressive as the picture. But this is gray whale baleen, and this is a humpback behind me here. So the baleen is this fibery, hairy filtering structure that lines only the top jaw, and they filter their food out with that. So whales kind of includes a lot of different diversity. There's a lot of species of animals. There's over, I believe, 70 species of toothed whales and maybe 15 to 20 baleen whales. That number changes every once in a while because as we learn more about the animals, there's a lot more that we can help describe or define for them. So in the last 10 years, we've defined a new subtype of whale. It's a new type of Brutus whale, and it's one that lives out on the western Pacific near Japan. So as we learn more about them, we start to learn more about the different kinds of animals and how we should more likely define who they are or even come up with new names or new designations. So science is one of my favorite things because we're always learning, we're always advancing, we're always trying to figure out something else to study. With whale science, even though we think we know a lot, we actually don't know as much as we would like to. Only in the last 10 years have we figured out that there's a sensory organ in the bottom of a baleen whale's jaw that helps them discern how dense the food is in front of their face. It's not like echolocation, like a toothed whale might have, but it is something that scientists have learned very recently, and we're still learning so much about them. Well, let's kind of talk about the groups of the whales. So let's go back to a baleen whale picture, and let's see what else we can describe about whales. So this is a picture that actually one of our interns here took. So we have a photo ID internship program that we have interns out on the whale watches that we partner with Harbor Breeze Cruises for, and this picture came from one of those. We got to see this here in Southern California. Now, we can look at the whole body of the humpback whale too. That's that picture we were looking at earlier. So what can we describe about our whale friend here? They have pectoral flippers. They have a tail that kind of comes off screen right here. They have this dorsal fin right here. And where's their eyes? Their eyes are kind of in a different location than we might expect. It's actually, I'm looking at my screen right here, right there. So as their mouth kind of curls down, their eyes are very near where the mouth, like the sides of where the mouth should be, and then their nose is on top of their body. So if you wanted to be a whale, what you'd have to do is take your nose off, put it on the back of your head. Glad you're following along. Take your mustache, just like mine, and put it in your mouth. Get rid of your teeth. You don't need them. Now, you have to stick, you can't see my feet, but stick your feet together and kind of flail them out like this. Kind of looks like a whale tail. That's kind of the body of a whale. They have a very similar design to us. They have a rib cage. They have their appendages. They have their head in the front. It's not like other animals like a sea star that really doesn't have a face. We even call this head to tail orientation. We have what's called bilateral symmetry. So my left and my right side are a mirror image. A sea star, for example, doesn't really have a left or a right, and it's not really a mirror image, but they have something else called radial symmetry. So if you turn it around, it kind of looks the same as it turns. So some of these animals look very similar to us. Some animals in the ocean look very, very different from us. So whales, because they're mammals, they follow a lot of the same biology that we do. Since they have a nose, do you think they breathe air or water? We might see the water come out off the top of their bodies when they're at the surface. Now, we might have a whale blow picture somewhere in our library. Here we go. It might look like this is water coming out of their lungs. That's not really the case. Have you ever gone swimming, and as soon as you come up out of the water, you got water all over your nose, you got to blow it out? Hopefully you don't get any boogers out there, because that's gross. But whale boogers are good luck, just so you know. If you are driving around in the ocean and you're watching whales, you have to be careful because you want to respect their space, but you end up getting sneezed on or blown on by a whale, we consider that good luck. But the blow is not really mostly just their boogers either. It's the water that was sitting on top of their nose. So since their bodies are horizontal, like my little stuffed animal friend here, and let's have this be their nose, when they come up out of the water, there's a layer of water just at the surface of their nose, and as they blow out, it blows all that off. It looks like a spout of steam or even a cloud that comes up, but it's really just the water that was sitting on top of them. Now, baleen whales are also the biggest animals on the planet. The two biggest whales, the blue whale and the fin whale, are very big. The blue whale has been, I think, recorded up to 110 feet, and fin whales are reaching into the upper 80-foot range, maybe 90 feet at the most. So they're still very large animals compared to the toothed whales. The largest toothed whale, the sperm whale, really only gets to about 60 feet long. And we're like, oh, only 60 feet? That's like the length of a city bus. But in terms of whale size, the blue whale, like you see here, is very big. Now, it's not just that they're long, because there's been dinosaur fossils found that have longer bodies than them, but the blue whale is also extremely massive. The largest estimates of a blue whale size are up to around 400,000 pounds. That is an immense animal. But that's my favorite part about them. When we're out in the ocean and we're out on 85-foot boats, and this animal surfaces near you, it is awe-inspiring. It is amazing that this animal lives or visits our space here in Southern California. And it's really amazing that we get to observe them out in the ocean. Now, this picture is really nice to show you also because what I want to talk about is conservation for whales. Well, whales used to be hunted, and anymore we have to observe the animals. They're not hunted widely anymore, but we do have to observe them. And the way that we know who is whom is by the dots or spots on their bodies. Now, scientists used to go and just look through thousands of pictures and try to figure out if the two pictures match. Now, I've described it before as if we took a random, like a creeper photo of you just out doing your thing somewhere, and we had your yearbook with it, and we compared that photo to all the different photos in your yearbook, that's kind of how we're looking for whales. We take a random picture of them out in the ocean, and then we have to compare it to a list of known animals with a specific call sign or number or even a human name that's been assigned to them. And we try to figure out which whale is which, because if we know who is visiting, how often, and how many years in a row, or even if they have a calf with them, we can learn so much more about the population. Now, scientists can also use the numbers that we see in a very strange equation, because I don't even know this equation, but they use this equation to estimate how many animals are in the ocean. So by us using what's called an opportunistic viewpoint, we're not really out there going in a straight line, just examining one section of the ocean. We're going wherever we know the whales are at. That's an opportunistic opportunity that we get to look at them, and we kind of go where the whales should be. But there's a way to calculate whale population from whale watch numbers. Now, when scientists go out and they do something, they will literally just drive the boat along one path, one straight line, and whatever they can see off of that straight line, they count. That's a different kind of scientific census. So ours is a little bit more, we drive wherever we want to, and we can see where the whales are at. But we use these spots to try and figure out who is whom. With some whales, though, it's a little bit tougher. Now, one of the whales that is being studied right now is not just blue whales. We do partner with a group called Cascadia Research Collective that they are really looking at the blue whale population. But another research group is looking at fin whales. Fin whales are one of my favorites. I love the blue whales because they are just beautiful, amazing. But fin whales, they kind of get a bad reputation every once in a while because they're very sneaky and they're very fast. Now, this is a rare chance where you get to see a fin whale breaching out of the water. Fin whales are big. They don't really have enough oomph to get out of the water. They're still 70, 80 feet long, and they're many thousands of pounds. They're probably 80,000 pounds or more. It takes a lot of energy to get a body that large out of the water. Well, humpbacks are much more notorious for breaching and jumping, and humpbacks are what we would often imagine as like the stereotypical whale. Well, fin whales, they do a lot of the same whale things. They're just different because their bodies are very long and slender. They don't have enough oomph to get out of the water to breach most of the time. Young ones might do it. There's very few adults that we ever get to see do that. But fin whales are also being studied for their populations because if you look at how humans used to hunt the whales, they would often pick some of the easier targets, the bigger whales that were slower moving, which was not this one. This was actually one of the last in the line of hunting because fin whales are very fast. Like we said, they are what we call the the greyhounds of the sea. And when they're out in the water, they might dive beneath the surface of the water, and we wait for them for about 10 minutes sometimes, and it might show up 1.5 miles or 2 miles away, and then we have to race the boat over to where that whale is at so that we can try and see them before they dive again. All right, now we have some awesome questions coming in. Let's try and answer a few of these before we get too far. Has climate change affected whale migration? Is a very good question. And can a Brutus whale taste? Gage has been watching all day. Thanks for viewing, Gage. Climate change is affecting whales in ways we don't yet fully understand. In some ways, it's changing their food, where their food is at. So that might change their migration path for start and end point, but it's really not going to change the direction they go, as far as we know. Now, that could change also. As waters warm up, the whales that move south to the warmer waters in the northern hemisphere, they go from the cold northern hemisphere to the southern edge towards the equator. As that warm water range gets bigger, they may not go as farther south. We haven't seen as much of that yet, so we're waiting to see what is going to happen. But in other cases, the food is retreating farther and farther north. So it takes them longer to do their migration pattern. And what we have noticed with gray whale data that we take here is that we're getting a few more gray whale babies being seen southbound, meaning they didn't have the babies in Mexico. They didn't quite get to Mexico yet before they had the babies. So we're seeing a few more of those than we probably should see, or compared to what we might have seen 30, 40 years ago. So it is changing some of the aspects of their migration, but it may not change the entire route. Good question. The Brutus whale, can a Brutus whale taste? All whales do have their preferred food. Now, how much they can taste with their tongue, I'm not entirely sure, but whales do have their favorite foods. The fin whales I was showing you, they'll eat krill and fish. If we can go back to that fin whale picture real quick, I'll even show you one of the ways that we look for fin whales. It's not just the spout, the blow, or the fin that sticks up out of the water. It's this bird right here. This is the Bonaparte's gull. And in the winter, they show up and they eat a lot of the same food, the same kind of krill that fin whale's eating. So if that Bonaparte's gull is in the area, we are going to be looking for fin whales. So we also look for relationships of animals to find who's out in the ocean. Now, one of the things that they're doing in the research to look at fin whales is not only monitor their fin shape, but also the spots that they might have on their body too. And scientists are developing equations and algorithms to test what we used to use as facial recognition software, kind of like our phone will recognize our face. They're using the same process to have it try and identify an animal based off of the shape of the fin and the spots on their body. Now, fin whales are very dark, so that one's a little tougher. But the blue whale, the gray whale, the humpback whale, there's enough of a color distinction that they can really figure out these animals with a very high success rate. Okay, we have another question from, I'm sorry if I get your name wrong, Mukan from Hawaii. Thank you for viewing for our Pacific Ocean friends. How many baleen plates do whales have, and how many species of whales are there? Well, the number of plates really varies depending on the type of whale. So for a gray whale, like we said, this is one plate. So they have a long row of these all along the top jaw. Some whales have hundreds of plates in their mouth. Some whales have maybe 100, 150. It really depends on the species. So there's a big range depending on which type of whale you are. It's a very good question. Those are one of the few factoids that I have not memorized about whales, is how many plates each type of whale might have. With a number of baleen whales, there's around 18, 20-ish baleen whales. That number does change, like I said, with the more we learn about them. The most recent book I purchased for our naturalists to use on the Whale Watch added a couple of whale species. So that was a new thing that we had to kind of make sure everybody knew that this animal, which we don't see often in our area, is a new species of whale. So there's a lot of baleen whales, but there's many more toothed whales. There's over 70 types of toothed whales out in the ocean. Now, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, is how do whales hear? Well, it's kind of a gross story, but it's also kind of an interesting story. So if we had to go to the doctor to have our head examined, no bad jokes, what would we do? We would probably use a type of scanning machine to look at what's inside. You can use MRIs, you can use CAT scans or PET scans to really look at what's going on inside somebody's head. You can use X-rays. Well, in a large whale, there's not an X-ray machine or MRI machine big enough to do this. With some dolphins, they were able to scan dolphins' heads. But how do you know more about a big whale, like a fin whale? Well, a fin whale head washed up on the beach one time, and a researcher came out, and all they wanted was the head. The scientists were going to kind of drag the rest of the body back out to the ocean so it could become a whale fall, where the whale sinks and becomes its own ecosystem of all the animals to try and dispose of the waste, all the detritivores, all the animals that come after the decaying matter. So the scientists just took the head of the fin whale. And this scientist has been doing this with other smaller toothed whales, where they would scan the head in an MRI machine made for people. Well, this fin whale was too big. So what they did is they took it to, I believe it was the Navy or the Air Force, and they used a rocket scanner to scan the whale's head. And they were able to learn so much more about the bone structure inside a whale. So what they do is they can feel the vibrations. That's what sound is a vibration in the air. It goes into our ears, and then little bones from our eardrum start moving, and then the signal goes from our ears to our brain. Well, in a whale, it's a little bit different. Now, you can feel vibrations through your chin. That's how whales do it too. Instead of having ears that can hear like we do, their ears are plugged up with wax, so there's no water that's getting in their ears. And the sound wave comes into their jaw, and the vibration travels back into their ear. Well, the scientists had to figure this out and use some very interesting math and very interesting uh, digital models to figure out how the jaw does this. And what happens is the jaw will end up tapping on ear bones. But with big whales like baleen whales, the sound waves are very, very big, like 3 times the length of the animal's body. So you imagine a wave. Okay. Imagine that wave that you just drew all the way up and all the way back. That length, we call wavelength, is 3 times the length of the size of these large whales. That's an interesting sound wave that they can hear. So they're using their jawbone to help them hear. And this works for the small whales, the toothed whales, too. Now, one of our friends is coming in. He's snacking on something right now. We told you we're going to have a mammal come help us learn. Amanda is back with our Virginia possum. Our Virginia possum is just a little too short. Now we're trying to figure out a way to help you see our possum friend. I'm gonna sneak around next to our possum, and all right, Dana's helping move the camera just a tiny bit.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda. I'm back. And I've brought Obi, short for Obi-Wan Kenobi, our Virginia opossum. No, not yet. Oh, we have it? Keep going. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Amanda, I'm back, and I brought our Virginia opossum. His name is Obi, short for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he is munching down on some of his food right now. He's kind of our older opossum. He's about 2.5, almost 3 years old at this point, and in the wild, they'll tend to live to be up to about 2 years old, and that's because they face a lot of threats, like a lot of our cars driving around or other predators that are out there. Here at the aquarium, sometimes they can live to be a little bit older than that, but even then he's still showing a few signs of old age, so you might see him kind of moving around, kind of like an old man might move around. But he is eating all of his food and he's really enjoying it right now. He is an omnivore, which means he can nom just about anything he finds out there. So that can be fruits, vegetables, insects, other animals. His favorite food is mice, followed pretty closely by some insects, followed again by some bananas. So he's eating a kind of nice variety of all of that right now. A lot of people are scared of opossums, though. They kind of have this weird stigma around with them, but they really shouldn't, to be honest. These guys are super helpful to us. They are nature's recyclers. They're out there eating all the food we might not have eaten, or all of the plants that have dropped their fruit on the ground that are rotting away. He's going to eat things like that. He's also going to eat things like ticks, and that is really useful. So they'll get ticks just like your dogs and cats might, but he has opposable thumbs. So you can see he might be using his hands to eat some of his food. He's able to use those hands to get ticks off of his body, and he'll eat them. So he can eat something like 5,000 ticks in one season. And especially things like black-legged ticks are bad for us humans. They can give us Lyme disease. So if he's out there and he's getting those ticks and eating them as a snack, he's not getting Lyme disease. He's not getting the ability to pass on Lyme disease. But he is preventing us from getting that. So that's something that's really useful. Another thing is, a lot of people see these animals and they think, oh my goodness, rabies. That could be scary. But their body temperature is actually really low for warm-blooded animals, and it's just not conducive to rabies virus. Now, Obi here is exploring. This cart is new for him. So he's kind of smelling around, seeing what it smells like, exploring. This whole little texture on here for him might be a little bit new and different. So he's kind of just exploring and figuring out what his surroundings are right now. Something else that's really cool are their tails. So you'll notice he's got this kind of, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Obi. I should have warned him a little bit. But he has a prehensile tail. You'll notice he's kind of wrapping it around the corner of the cart now. And that tail can wrap around things that helps him while he's climbing up trees. And it'll wrap around tree branches to kind of keep him stable. Now, a lot of cartoons will show them kind of hanging from their tails, but they don't really have the ability to hold up all of their body strength with just their tail, or all of their body mass with just their tail, but they'll actually use it to stabilize themselves instead. And now he is cleaning his hands after a nice meal. That's good thing. We all want to clean our hands.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda. This has been very interesting. I have not seen our opossum out at least this closely before. And these are what we call our program animals. So they participate in our education programs where we bring them out in front of the public at specific times when we're open to the public. So they're not always on exhibit, but you do get an opportunity to learn from people like Amanda when we do have the chance to bring them in front of our guests and show off all about our amazing animals.
This is Obi's first time in this room too, so he's doing a good job.
I think it's most of their first time in our studio, which is interesting to see how they're learning and exploring the little space that they have to come and check us out. Yes, the food is always helpful. Yep. I know I would love to explore places with food.
Oh, yes. All right, well, we're going to head back out.
Thank you so much, Amanda and Obi, for helping us learn about mammals here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. We have very special penguin and opossum mobiles where we can wheel them around to parts of the aquarium so that they can get to the spaces we need to help show off some of our animals to our public. Now, while Amanda was talking, we did have a couple more questions come in. Can whales echolocate? The toothed whales, all the toothed whales have some ability of echolocation, meaning they can send a sound wave out kind of through their forehead, it bounces off an object, and it comes back through their lower jaw, like we talked about how whales hear. So they can emit a sound that bounces off an object and comes back to their lower jaw. Now, the only way that this works the way it does for whales is because they have this fatty tissue right here in their forehead called the melon and in the back of their lower jaw. This fatty tissue kind of helps focus the sound wave. Now, that researcher I was telling you about that was scanning whale heads, well, they figured out that if the tissue was any other kind of tissue, not fat, the sound wave wouldn't work. It wouldn't even transmit out of their head in some cases. So this fatty tissue is really important for how they echolocate. Baleen whales do not have any echolocation abilities that we've discovered at all. So their bodies are very different. They don't have the melon. They don't have the fatty tissue up front that can help focus the sound wave. Even though they hear the same way, they don't have the ability to emit that sound in the same way. Good question from Laura. Now, another important question is conservation. Now, this one comes from Landon in Arizona. And they're asking what are we doing at the Aquarium of the Pacific to help with the vaquita, which is the most endangered cetacean and is actually very close to where we are here. It's, I think, maybe 120 miles or 150 miles from where we're at right here, right now. They're in the Sea of Cortez. So this is the vaquita. It is the only found in this very small area of the very northern section of the Gulf of California. So the vaquita has been, unfortunately, populations have been reducing drastically because of not overfishing of them. Here's a graph of some of their numbers over the past 20 years almost. It's not because people are trying to catch vaquita, it's because they're trying to fish other animals. And in the process of fishing those other animals, the vaquita are getting entangled in the nets. So there's a lot that's going on in the Gulf of California to try and protect them, try and change practices of how people fish down there. But what we have done here, especially with our boss, our director of education, Dave Bader, is that we've been going around and trying to help educate everybody and make them aware of the situation, talk about the complexity of vaquita. We've also had our director visit a few other places in the world to learn how other communities are trying to protect their local cetaceans, river dolphins and other coastal cetaceans that live near the coastline, to see what they're doing to try and help protect them. Now, we can't go down to the Sea of Cortez and do anything specifically, but we can participate with the local research groups, conservation groups, the local governments, and all those people to try and help figure out the best plan. Now, what has been done is they've tried to create a under human care version of holding all the vaquita. So they tried to collect them, which did not work, unfortunately. And right now, what they're doing is just having a total gillnet ban in the area and try to kind of patrol and make sure people are fishing appropriately and legally in those areas so that they're not accidentally catching the vaquita. So we keep working to try and talk about the animals that need our help, that need our services, and there's a lot of ways that you can try and help too. And in one way is using sustainable seafood. So if you want to help, depending on what kind of animal it is, where they're coming from in the world, if you eat sustainable seafood, you're supporting fisheries that are fishing responsibly versus those that are fishing irresponsibly. Now, in some cases, this doesn't help as much as we would like because some of the cases of why these animals are being overfished or entangled in things, we don't have any effect on here in the United States. However, we can still go and voice our support to our local governments, to our friends and our neighbors, to talk to them about other ways that we can help support positive, responsible practices here on the planet. All right, now I think we didn't have any more questions come in, but I did want to show you one very special picture that we have, and it's our fin whale fluke. So you might have seen other animals, other whales, where they stick their tail up out of the water. It's called fluking. Well, a fin whale very, 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 very rarely would ever stick their tail up. There's two fin whales that we've seen here in Southern California that do, and we can use the same ID pattern where we check out the shape and the color patterns on top of their fluke to try and identify who they are. So this is one of my favorite photos, and this is another one that one of our interns took, and it really goes to show just the special nature of our local urban ocean here. That there's a lot of people in this area, there's a lot of people that use the ocean, not only for recreation, for shipping, for fishing, but for also tourism, ecotourism, where we go out and look for the animals that are out there. And as long as we are behaving responsibly, that we are doing our part to make sure that we are maintaining a healthy habitat for them, we get to see all the beauty that Southern California has to offer. Well, I want to thank you all for hanging out with us on our Earth Day today. There's going to be a little bit more going on this afternoon and this evening. So we're going to have Amanda with Obi out on our Facebook Live out in our main hall here. So you can check out Obi and Amanda in a little bit at 2:45 on our Facebook Live. We're also going to be streaming a lecture tonight at 7 o'clock that you can tune in for and make sure that you get to learn a little bit more about how people are working to help keep our planet healthy and happy so that we have somewhere to be and our future generations have somewhere to be too. And from all of us here at the Aquarium of the Pacific, thank you for joining on our Aquarium Online Academy and enjoy the rest of your Earth Day.